Despite the government's glossy announcements, a majority of national pride projects have been stranded due to indecision of the cabinet. 9 out of the 22 projects have been stalled due to lack of working modality. The action room established at the Prime Minister's office that has the authority to intervene and expedite the projects has also failed to come into effect yet. Good morning, I'm Amit Becquerel and these are the top stories this hour. Modalities for national pride projects pending at the cabinet. 9 out of 22 projects stalled due to indecision. Government's action room fails to deliver. The formation of the Stabilization Fund to save cooperatives from going bankrupt fails to gain momentum. Ministry uninterested in providing cooperative operators leadership. Pakistan calls United Nations for meeting over India's decision to revoke special status of Jammu and Kashmir. Amnesty International condemns Indian security crackdown. And Liverpool taking on Chelsea in the title clash of the Super Cup this evening. Liverpool says striker Sadio Mane completely fit for the finale. On 20th of May earlier this year, an action room was established at the Prime Minister's office that enabled the Prime Minister to monitor the national pride projects across the country and issue relevant directives. The idea was to expedite construction of national pride projects that had been stalled. However, 9 out of the 22 projects have been stuck at the cabinet due to indecision, despite the cabinet being led by the Prime Minister himself. Speaking at the meeting of the National Concern and Coordination Committee of the National Assembly, Minister of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, Yogesh Patrai, said that the government would construct the Nisgat International Airport at any cost and the foundation for the airport would be laid within 4 months. However, Minister Patrai did not mention the tentative completion date for the airport. Experts have stated that it was obvious the minister could not set a deadline as the cabinet had yet to decide the project's modality. Another national pride project, the Kathmandu-Tarai fast track that would connect the Nisgat International Airport with the capital, has been stalled as well. The project was handed to the Nepal Army 2 years ago with the expected completion duration of 4 years. The project first began a decade back. However, the detailed project report or DPR has not been prepared yet, and the draft is pending at the cabinet since 5 months now. Likewise, the model for the Buri Gandaki hydropower project that began 6 years back with a completion deadline of 7 years from now has been pending at the cabinet. Due to the delay, the only works carried out so far is distributing compensations. The West Seti hydropower project has also been a victim of government's indecision. A report by the Office of the Auditor General has itself stated that the modality and implementation procedure for 9 out of 22 national pride projects have yet to be decided. The sluggishness has raised questions on the existence of the action room established at the cost of 60 million rupees. While the existing projects have been stranded, the government has been introducing additional national pride projects. 5 years back, there were only 8 national pride projects. The number has gone up to 22.
मुख्य गरी राष्ट्रिय गौरवको योजना के हो उहाँले बुझ्दै बुझ्नु भएन। म त एउटा क्षेत्रीय योजना विकास योजनाको विद्यार्थी रिजनल डेभलपमेन्ट प्लानिङको विद्यार्थी भएको नाताले राष्ट्रिय र क्षेत्रीय महत्त्वका पूर्वाधारहरू निर्माण गर्नको निम्ति मैले सोच विचार गरेर नै पूर्व पश्चिम सडकहरू मध्यपाडी लोकमार्ग हुलाकी लोकमार्ग कोशी गण्डकी कर्णालीका उत्तर दक्षिण लोकमार्गहरू एयरपोर्टहरू बुढी गण्डकी जस्ता चाहिँ जलविद्युत योजनाहरू र सिक्टा आदि लगायतका चाहिँ सिँचाइ योजनाहरू भनेर मैले राखेको थिएँ। त्यसको रणनीति महत्त्व उहाँले बुझ्दै बुझ्नु भएन।
Each project is worth more than 1 trillion rupees, which makes it even more crucial for the government to prioritize deciding on the project's modality and DPR at the earliest. The government has been mulling over the formation of the Stabilization Fund that will protect cooperatives from going bankrupt. The Ministry of Land Management, Cooperatives and Poverty Alleviation and the Department of Cooperatives have come to a conclusion that the provision to let cooperatives director lead the fund is faulty. In order to implement the cooperatives law, the regulation introduced by the government 3 months back has made arrangements for determining the relevant interest to establishing a stabilization fund. Based on the regulation, the Department of Cooperatives introduced the relevant interest from 4th of August, which prohibits of charging more than 16% interest on loan amounts. The Ministry of Land Management, Cooperatives and Poverty Alleviation and the Department of Cooperatives did not move forward with the process of forming the Stabilization Fund, citing the provision to let Cooperatives Director lead the fund as faulty. Based on the regulation, 5% of the profit earned by the cooperatives goes to the Stabilization Fund. There are more than 34,000 cooperatives operating in the country at the moment, which have collected deposit of 273 billion rupees. The provision of collecting 5% from the cooperative's profit is to bring more than 3 billion rupees into the fund. According to regulation, the government will also deposit a certain amount in the fund. The amount deposited in the fund will be used to rescue cooperatives from going bankrupt. Once such a cooperative collects the loans, the cooperative gives back the amount provided by the fund. There is a provision that the chairman of the Savings and Loans of Central Cooperatives Association will also be chairman of the Stabilization Fund. Experts have opined this very provision as the reason behind the department not prioritizing the process of establishing the Stabilization Fund. The establishment of the fund is provision in the law in order to prevent the incident from repeating where members of 12 trouble-ridden cooperatives lost their deposits. If the law is faulty, it should be amended. The government, however, should not back away from establishing the stabilization. The government has declared the year 2020 as Visit Nepal year. In this contest, we asked the hotel and tourism businessmen in Sauraha Chitwan how are they preparing to welcome the tourists. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public voice.
भिजिट 2020 को लागि हामीले त विशेष त यहाँका होटलहरू स्तर उन्नतीकरण त्यस्तै गरी सरसफाइदेखि लिएर रङरोगन गर्दै छौं।
भारतीय पर्यटकहरूलाई पनि वृद्धि गर्नको निम्ति भारतीय शहरहरूमा गएर चाहिँ सीमावर्ती क्षेत्रमा चितवनको र सौराको समग्र निकुञ्जको चाहिँ प्रचार प्रसार गर्ने एउटा कार्यक्रम निरन्तरता दिने प्रयास गरेका छौं।
लगभग 20 वटा स्विमिङ पुल वाला होटलहरू चाहिँ अहिले रेडी भएको अवस्था छ र सबै होटलले आफ्नो गुणस्तर पनि बढाएको अवस्था छ।
थारू जातिको पनि वेशभूषाहरू झल्काउने खालको विविध कार्यक्रमहरू पनि ल्याएको छ।
सौरा निकुञ्ज भ्रमणको लागि सफारीको लागि विशेष कार्यक्रमहरू परिष्कृत गर्ने योजनामा छौं हामी।
सौरावासीहरू एक आपसमा हातेमालो गरेर यो पर्यटन प्रवर्धनका लागि अघि बढिरहेका छौं।
It's time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
And the question is, what's your take on the formulation of law that prohibits players, coaches and public officials to hold office at sports associations? And options are A, an attempt to improve sports sector, and B, difficult to implement. The voting is on. Type NAWS, select your option A or B and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Now the sports update.
Sports news.
Former European Cup winners had mixed fortunes in Champions League qualifying as Ajax Amsterdam and Red Star Belgrade squeezed into the playoff round, while Celtic and Porto were eliminated after a dramatic match last night. Ajax, the semi-finalists last season, came from behind to beat PAOK 3-2 for a 5-4 aggregate win over the Greeks, while Red Star knocked out FC Copenhagen penalties after a bizarre shootout involving 22 spot kicks. Krasnodar spruns a major upset with a 3-2 win at the Porto to advance on away goals after losing the home leg 1-0. And Romania's Cluj won 4-3 at Celtic to eliminate the Scottish champions 5-4 on aggregate. And it's now time for our special segment, Laugh Out Loud.
One of the much touted slogans of the Prime Minister Oli-led administration has been the zero tolerance against corruption. But ever since Premier Oli assumed his office, the country has been reeling under widespread corruption with a number of scandals of the likes of gold smuggling, wide body purchase and land encroachment repeatedly making the headlines. With the country almost taking the status of the corruption land, it has now come to the light that the government spent around 6 billion rupees while purchasing vehicles for their officials. The Auditor General's office, while issuing its 56th annual report, categorically mentioned that the purchase of a massive number of vehicles was needless and that it mainly involved commission games worth millions of rupees. And talking about headlines, many leading national dailies on Monday carried the headlines that Sompal Khami's team, Winnipeg Hawks, has won the Global T20 tournament held in Canada. The headline sounded ridiculous given the fact that Sompal was not even considered in the playing 11 to contest the final match of the tournament. In a few league matches that Sompal featured in, he had a disastrous outing, failing to impress with the bat and ball. Players have their ups and downs, but we at Kantipur English News Desk simply felt that it was not appropriate for the national media to brand Winnipeg Hawks as Sompal Khami's team. This is Prarambh Dahal for Kantipur News Desk.
And that's all for this hour. Keep watching Kantipur Television SD for more news and entertainment. Have a good day.